Every day from then on, Miss Harris kept bragging about her fiancé. He was highly educated and well off, coming from a reputed family that lived in a luxury residential area in the city.
I'll invite you, Miss Thompson, to my wedding as your last chance to see something splendid.
I had no intention of attending such an event. I didn't care about seeing her in her wedding dress, and I was sure I'd be seated with the other female employees. No matter how glamorous the venue or how delicious the food might be, I didn't want to go. As I was thinking that, Miss Harris said,
"Oh, right. I'll show you a picture of his house,"
and started operating her smartphone.
"Ah, found it. This is it."
Saying that, Miss Harris brought her smartphone screen closer to me. There was a house I recognized.
"It's amazing, isn't it? The luxurious and wonderful house is his family home. They must be incredibly wealthy."
Miss Harris was saying, but my eyes did not leave the screen of her smartphone.
"Oh my, are you surprised? If you want, I can show you pictures inside the house as well."
When she slid the photo, a sight I was even more familiar with appeared.
It's a luxurious house that you, Miss Thompson, probably couldn't even dream of entering. Are you envious?
Cutting off what she was saying, I hurriedly spoke. This is actually my family home. My name is Kimberly Thompson, an employee at a small to medium-sized company. I am already 34 years old, but still single. I've been working at the company, where I got a job right after graduating college, for over 12 years now. Being the oldest among the female employees, I'm in a position often referred to as the old maid. And all the other women who joined the company at the same time as me have left after getting married. In other words, I'm the only one who kept working there. It is not that I'm working there to find a husband. I just diligently work every day. I tend to keep to myself and like being alone, and I'm not very good at socializing. So, from the perspective of those around me, I am undoubtedly a stick in the mud. But I'm serious about my work, and because I've been at the company for a long time, it seems like the other employees treat me carefully with some respect. Well, I can understand their feelings. I don't go to any social events with my coworkers, and I don't exchange contact information with anyone. I don't hang out in my private life, and I only engage in conversation when absolutely necessary. So it's no wonder they find me boring and don't bother inviting me. But because I've been at the company for a long time, and I'm good at my job, they can't complain. I'm quite a senior. I think that's the kind of awkwardness I bring. As for me, I actually find it convenient not being approached by others. I can work in peace, and I can spend my breaks freely. Plus, this job doesn't involve any entertaining or client-facing tasks, so I'm not caught up in any troublesome human relations drama. And I can spend my days off watching as much of my favorite anime as I want. I also like reading, so going to the bookstore and impulse buying books based on their covers is enjoyable. At first glance, some people might feel that my life is lonesome and empty, but I thought this quiet yet peaceful life made me feel my happy. However, everything started to change when a young woman joined the company. She was the complete opposite of me, a friendly, cheerful woman with excellent communication skills. Her name is Michelle Harris. Miss Harris was the type to actively approach others, and she seemed particularly popular among the male employees. She was cute and charming, so I figured she easily captured the hearts of the men. When I watched her, I felt like I was watching a character from a movie because she was so different from me. A bright, honest woman at the center of the group. Probably the type of woman I would have a hard time dealing with. While thinking such things, I happened to overhear a group of female employees chatting away cheerfully in the restroom. This all happened when they came into the restroom while I was in there, fixing their makeup and freely starting to gossip and complain. "You know that new girl, Harris? Don't you just find her annoying?" "I know, right? She seems just like she's trying to please men, doesn't she? definitely gives off that vibe. That has to be on purpose, right? She's constantly trying to appear cute. It's so annoying. Her only appeal is that she's young, isn't it? She can't even do her job properly. Isn't it embarrassing to just chase men all the time? Such harsh words. It's only natural that a new employee can't do their job as well. Moreover, I thought to myself that maybe Harris has to rely on the male employees because you guys aren't properly teaching her how to do her job. I have a habit of occasionally observing Harris, who is so different from me in appearance and personality. I have seen her being coldly dismissed by the female employees several times. Every time, Harris looked downhearted and ended up talking to a male colleague. So I don't think she's trying to win over the men. She's just cornered into such situations. I'm sure these female employees gossip about me too, just with different content. If Harris is spoken about like this, I'm sure I get it worse. I'm probably just not seeing it because I'm the oldest among the female employees and can do my job well. Interpersonal relationships can be so exhausting. I'm glad I don't have to get involved. Thinking that, I sat on the toilet until they finished fixing their makeup and left. Then, on another day, Harris was unusually mingling and talking with the female employees. I was surprised but glad to see her fitting in with the other women and decided to take my lunch break. As I got up from my seat to go outside with my packed lunch, as usual, I passed by them, and Harris suddenly called out to me. When I turned around, she asked me a nonsensical question. "Why aren't you married, ma'am?" It's clearly a malicious question. As I was struggling to answer, I could hear the female employees behind Harris chuckling. Even the wide-eyed male employees started to laugh. Led on by them. One of the female employees said, "Hey, that's rude," but then praised Harris, saying, "You're such a funny girl, Harris." From then on, Harris started to ask me more and more disrespectful questions that left me at a loss for answers, thinking she would be praised for making fun of me.
"Miss Thompson, have you ever had a boyfriend? How many years have you not had a boyfriend? How many people have you been with? Are you by any chance not interested in men?"
Harris kept asking me these personal questions without considering my feelings at all, and the level of disrespect only increased over time, and the surrounding employees seemed to find it amusing, encouraging Harris as if they wanted her to do more. I suppose she was happy to be recognized as one of them by the other female employees. Trying to meet their expectations, she kept intensifying her remarks to me. As things escalated, she began to flaunt her own status to me.
"My boyfriend just gave me a designer bag as a gift the other day. I'm going to a high-end restaurant tonight that's booked out for the next 6 months. Do you just eat macaroni and cheese at home, Thompson?"
This kind of petty one-upmanship had been her modus operandi.
"Miss Thompson, you don't seem to have any connection with luxury items. How pathetic,"
she would throw in with her sarcasm. Rather than feeling angry, I was beginning to find it impressive. As this silly back and forth went on, I found myself increasingly burdened with Miss Harris's work. Miss Harris, who was rather overbearing, had an invincible disregard for fear. The other female employees seemed unable to deal with her, and she rapidly turned into a monster. Then one day, after some time had passed, something happened. When Miss Harris came to work, she was very upbeat and started talking to me.
"I got engaged."
As she said this, she showed me a picture of her fiancé, even though I hadn't asked. When I responded with a polite, "That's nice," and tried to return to my work, Miss Harris continued to chatter on.
"My fiancé is really rich, kind, handsome, and perfect. Are you jealous? I'm going to be happy leaving you here, Miss Thompson."
With that, she brought her smartphone screen closer to me. She continually belittled me and bragged about how amazing her fiancé was and how she had hit the jackpot by getting engaged to him. "Well, I am jealous. Congratulations, truly," I said. Miss Harris, looking satisfied, said,
"Okay, I'm going back to work,"
and returned to her desk. When it comes to this, it's almost refreshing. I sighed deeply. I need to focus on my work. Just as I was trying to switch my mindset, I heard the other female employees talking behind me. She's really getting carried away, isn't she?
Seriously, just because she's getting married, she's acting so giddy? What's up with that?
Like she can actually be happy after getting married. She probably can't even do housework and might cheat on him.
I agree.
She's definitely the type who would get divorced quickly once her charms wear off. Totally agree. As one of them began to vent, the others joined in, spewing complaints. Out of pure curiosity, I asked the female employees, "Weren't you all friends with Miss Harris?"
"What are you talking about? No way."
They all laughed.
We would never be friends with a woman like that.
It's just her thinking we're her friends. I see. It seems that Miss Harris had managed to make enemies of the female employees again. They didn't mind when she was bullying me, but as she increasingly tried to one-up me, she started doing the same thing to the other female employees. I sighed quietly. Aren't you the ones who boosted and fanned her flames? From then on, Miss Harris boasted about her fiancé almost daily. Apparently, he comes from a prestigious family, is highly educated, earns a high income, and his parents' home is located in an upscale residential area in Manhattan.
This has nothing to do with you, Miss Thompson, who always looks so shabby. It seems like you could continue to live a simple life alone. The only people who would marry you are likely to be leftovers. Nobody high profile or high earning would ever consider someone like you. You may have to settle for someone uneducated and unemployed. But even such a man might refuse you, considering you're a dried-up old maid.
Miss Harris would say, laughing.
I'll invite you to my wedding, Miss Thompson. It will be your last shining moment.
I certainly did not want to attend that. I couldn't care less about her wedding dress, and I'm sure I'd be seated with those female employees. Even if the venue is glamorous and the food is delicious, I wouldn't want to be there. As I was thinking this, Miss Harris said,
"Oh, I just remembered. I'll show you a picture of his parents' house."
And she began manipulating her smartphone. I wasn't interested in her fiancé's parents' house at all.
"Oh, I found it. This is it,"
Miss Harris said, bringing her smartphone screen closer to me. I saw a house that looked familiar.
"Isn't it amazing? Such a gorgeous and wonderful house being his parents' home. They must be extremely wealthy. All this will eventually be mine. I'm on top of the world. I'm now part of the rich gang. If I feel like it, I'll invite you over, Miss Thompson."
Miss Harris said this, but my eyes couldn't leave the screen of her smartphone.
"Oh my, did that surprise you? Feel free to take a look at the pictures of the interior as well."
As she slid the phone across, more familiar scenes appeared. This is...
You can't see or enter such a luxurious house, can you? Are you envious?
I cut her off in a hurry and said, this is actually my parents' house."
"What? What are you talking about?"
"Well, I mean this house in the photo." When I said that, Miss Harris looked shocked.
"Huh? What are you saying? Just because you're envious, you shouldn't make such a lame claim."
No matter what she says, I'm convinced this is my parents' house. Besides, I'm an only child, so it's not like I have brothers who could marry her or anyone else. The only ones living in this house are my parents, who have entered their 60s, and our beloved dog. Miss Harris seems to think I was joking and laughed out loud.
"Oh, Miss Thompson, you're so high level, keeping a straight face while fooling around."
But I said seriously, "No, I'm not kidding. This is really true," she said, pointing at the photo.
"But look, his car is parked here too, right? And how could you take pictures inside a house that isn't yours?"
Despite her objections, the photos she was showing me were undoubtedly my parents' house. The placement of things, the floor plan, it was all exactly like the house I grew up in. Then it hit me. I remembered a sales guy who was often coming and going from my parents' house. I'd met him there and talked to him. He was desperately trying to get a contract, telling my parents all sorts of convenient things. I asked Miss Harris her fiancé's name. It was the same name as the salesman. I see. So that man, Aaron, was pretending my parents' house was his own to impress her. What a lame guy. Does he think he could get away with that? I noticed other signs that Aaron wasn't a very good person. He was always smiling, and even when my parents said,
"We think we'll pass on the contract this time,"
he would cheerfully respond,
"I see. Well, I'll come by again next time."
But the moment he left the house, I saw from my bedroom window that he had a really scary look on his face. Maybe he was just angry because he didn't get the contract, but it left me a really bad feeling. There's no need to tell Miss Harris about this, but that house is definitely my parents' house. I won't back down on that. Miss Harris was raising her voice.
"What? That house is Miss Thompson's parents' house. That's impossible."
No matter how much I explained, she wouldn't believe me. So I decided to take her to my parents' house after work that day. We arrived at my parents' house, and I took her through the gate. I opened the front door and said, "I'm home." Then my parents came out with a smile.
"Welcome home. When you said you were coming home all of a sudden, we wondered what was going on. You even brought a friend."
"It's not often we see you, but it's nice to see your face after a long time."
"We have to serve something since you brought a friend."
"We have some sweets we brought when we went on a trip to France with your aunt. We'll serve them with some tea." Looking at Miss Harris, my parents smiled happily. I mentioned the name of her fiancé and asked my parents about him.
"Oh, the salesman.
He was here just the other day." Hearing my parents respond like that, Miss Harris seemed to accept the truth. When we arrived in my room, she suddenly began to cry. "What happened? Are you sad because you were lied to about his family home?" Sure, being lied to might have been shocking, but it was not that much of a disaster, I thought. Then Miss Harris said, "I'm sorry," and began to talk about her engagement with Aaron. Apparently, Miss Harris met Aaron at a social gathering. At that time, Aaron told her that he held a position in a major corporation, and when they were alone, he informed her that his family was wealthy, which caused her to fall for his good looks and the status. After that, they went on a few dates and their relationship developed. However, despite Aaron's position in a major corporation, he turned out to be surprisingly stingy. At first, he paid for all of their dates, but gradually, he started making Miss Harris pay, claiming he had no cash on hand. When Miss Harris said something about it, Aaron suddenly proposed, saying,
"Actually, I want to save money because I'm going independent. Plus, we need to save for our wedding fund, right?"
Caught off guard by the proposal, Miss Harris got carried away and started to shell out cash as he directed. Aaron took advantage of this, borrowing more and more money from Miss Harris, and before she knew it, she had handed him a substantial sum. Still, she fell blindly for his sweet words like,
"It's for our happy married life together."
If you look at it objectively, you would think that if his family was really wealthy, he wouldn't need to borrow money from his girlfriend. But Miss Harris, who had fallen head over heels in love, seemed to trust him completely. But now it seems, even Miss Harris had come to realize it was a lie. Miss Harris came to apologize to me in tears.
"Miss Thompson, I'm really sorry. I apologize for the terrible attitude I've been showing until now. I know I can't be forgiven, but please let me apologize."
She explained in tears that she was led by the other female employees to harass me. She didn't really like to gossip or show off, but she was instigated by the other female employees and pressured to join in, or else she would be left out like before. It was hard, but she said she managed to endure because she had Aaron. Again, she apologized and shed big tears. Seeing Mrs. Harris like that made me feel sorry for her. She was really struggling in her own way. We could leave those female employees, but the liar must be dealt with. In a way, my family and I are involved too. We need to teach him a lesson. Let's teach that guy a lesson. I decided to have Miss Harris call Aaron. When we arranged to meet at a cafe, he changed his complexion as soon as he saw my face. Aaron, looking uncomfortable, lowered his gaze. I told him I was going to report his misuse of the photo of his family home and his deception of my junior colleague to his workplace. He turned pale and started apologizing.
"Please, forgive me for that."
"So why did you lie and deceive Miss Harris?" Apparently, he had approached her because he thought she had money, since she wore nice clothes and branded bags. He began to brazen it up. and turned to Miss Harris and said something outrageous.
Mainly, it's your fault for coming after me without seeing through my lies. I showed you a nice dream, so you should consider it a gratitude fee.
I was stunned at his audacity. It reminded me of the hidden side I saw from the window at my family home. You proposed marriage. That's why Miss Harris trusted you. Then Aaron replied with a defiant laugh.
Well, I thought it was the best thing to say.
What do you mean? So you had no intention of marrying Miss Harris?
Well, yes. I'm not thinking about getting married right away.
Aaron casually made such a statement. Miss Harris couldn't take it anymore and started crying. Seeing Miss Harris crying, Aaron looked annoyed. What a terrible man he is. There's no need to show mercy to someone like him. I pulled out a voice recorder and said, I recorded what you just said. And you can demand compensation for breaking off an engagement without a reasonable cause. Aaron turned pale and frantically said,
Whoa, that's gonna be a problem.
Choose between reporting this incident to the company or repaying the money you borrowed from Miss Harris along with some damages, I said. Hearing this, Aaron replied,
I'll pay back the money,
and dropped his shoulders. That's how we came to an agreement that he would pay back Miss Harris. It seems that Aaron was cheating, and his mistress was spending money lavishly, more than his salary could cover. But he was so smitten with her that he was siphoning money from Miss Harris to keep her satisfied. After Aaron left the cafe, Miss Harris tightly grasped my hand and repeatedly expressed her gratitude. She apologized once again for everything that had happened and promised to change her ways. Since then, Miss Harris has become quite fond of me and no longer exhibits her previous attitude. Even when other female employees act unpleasantly, she no longer lets it bother her and concentrates on her work. Seeing her like this, the female employees still badmouth her, but I think they're just not worth dealing with. Later, when one of the female employees got engaged, a nasty war of words began among them. Petty jealousies and grudges started affecting their work, and a fed-up supervisor escalated the matter, resulting in each of them being transferred to different departments. Being on their own, these women weren't particularly harmful, and it seems they are now working quietly in their new departments. Our department has become peaceful and calm, and Miss Harris has been able to work more freely. Lately, Miss Harris and I have been having lunch together, sharing our hobbies. Thanks to her, I've developed an interest in fashion, and she has become a big fan of anime. I may not be friendly with everyone, but having someone like Miss Harris, whom I can trust, has made working at this company more enjoyable than ever. Money and status may be attractive, but they are only a part of life, not everything. I may be plain, but I believe that being able to live a peaceful and calm daily life is truly the greatest happiness.
I made myself lunch today. I want to be a better cook, so please have a taste, she said.
All right, let's go to a nearby park and eat, I replied.
Yes,
she replied happily.
Ugh, the food is terrible again. It doesn't taste good at all when I have to eat it while looking at your gloomy face. It was a big mistake to marry such an incompetent woman. In fact, it was a mistake to be born into this family in the first place. I'm fed up with having two sick people in the house. Whenever my husband sees me, all he does is complain. I don't want his words to upset his bedridden parents. My name is Chloe. I am 34. We've been married for 5 years. We met through a mutual friend when I was 29 and my husband was 31. After graduating college, I lost my parents to illness one after another. My husband, Sam, proposed a serious relationship with marriage in mind, which made me believe he was a sincere person. Looking back, I think he was in a hurry to get married because all of his friends were getting married, and he didn't want to fall behind. The topic of marriage came up within 6 months of dating, and I went to visit his family. His parents welcomed me more than I expected and showed me a lot of consideration when they learned that my parents were gone. My mother-in-law helped me with the wedding preparations just like my own mother would have, and I was very grateful. So, I had no objections to living together with his parents after marriage. In fact, you could even say I was more than welcome.
Chloe, the coffee you make is really good.
Thank you. My deceased father was a great coffee lover, and I also love coffee due to his influence. I buy various beans and sometimes blend them myself. I was so into coffee that I wanted to open a cafe with my father in the future. However, after my father passed away, I somehow lost that passion. Now, my father-in-law truly enjoys the coffee I make. When I see how much he loves coffee and enjoys coffee I make, it reminds me of my father. Sometimes it brings tears to my eyes. On the other hand, Sam can't tell the difference between instant and brewed coffee from beans. So, even when I buy beans, he only says that instant would probably taste better. I also enjoy cooking, but Sam doesn't show any interest in food and has never praised anything I've cooked. He seems to think that anything edible is the same. But my mother-in-law enjoys cooking with me, which raises my spirits.
I have always dreamed of cooking with a daughter like this. Plus, Chloe, you know a lot of recipes. You've been teaching a lot.
Thank you. I enjoy cooking with you every day too. Sam had nothing to do with household chores, but my in-laws were always happy with what I did. So, married life was enjoyable. However, 2 years ago, my mother-in-law got sick. Although she didn't need to be hospitalized, she had to lie down sometimes.
Chloe, I'm sorry. I'm feeling good today, so I can help a little with housework. Please, take a break sometimes.
I'm fine. Please don't push yourself.
But...
That's right, Mom. Chloe's only good at housework.
Sam, you shouldn't say that. Do you realize how much Chloe helps us every day? You can work free from anxiety because Chloe is here. You should show some appreciation.
The wife should take care of the husband's parents. I can be grateful for such a thing. It doesn't bother me to take care of my mother-in-law, but it's unpleasant to be taken for granted by Sam. After my mother-in-law became bedridden, Sam started complaining that the house was gloomy. He started coming home late, and he started working more on his days off. Then I noticed foundation on his clothes, perfume lingering on him, and other suspicious things. When I confronted him, he admitted to having an affair. He said he met her at a bar where he went for drinks with his colleagues because he didn't want to come home early and help with caregiving. I was stunned by his lack of remorse and the absurdity of his reason for cheating. I was infuriated and frustrated to think that he was doing such things while I was taking care of the house and his mother. But my father-in-law was furious and preached Sam, who seemed to reflect greatly at that time. He apologized and promised never to cheat again. So I didn't divorce him. But to be honest, I was more worried about leaving my frail mother-in-law
then wanting to stay with Sam as a couple. I couldn't imagine Sam taking care of his mother, and I thought it would be hard for my father-in-law, who was still working, to take care of her. Then, my father-in-law retired when he turned 65. On the day my father-in-law retired, Sam was more interested in how much OASDI would be and how much he would give him than in appreciation his father's long years of work. It seemed that Sam was counting on his father's pension. However, his father's answer was completely contrary to Sam's expectations. "I can't give you any money from my pension." "What?" He said he would get pension just as much as he needed to survive. "What? So what was the point of me putting up with everything all this time? Looking after my mother and living with her? What are you talking about? You've hardly done anything to take care of your mother. Just living under the same roof as her is as good as taking care of her." After this, Sam's verbal abuse got worse. Apparently, the noble attitude Sam took when he was caught cheating was because he was counting on pension he would get from his father. "I should have married a richer woman. I rushed into marriage and it's been a failure." "Stop it, Sam. Chloe has been nothing but good to you." "Shut up! My mother is nothing more than a nuisance." "How dare you say such things to your own mother?" "Oh, this house is so depressing. I'm seriously unlucky to be stuck with a useless wife, a dull father, and a troublesome mother." Despite his father-in-law's multiple warnings, Sam refused to listen. As a result, he started to work overtime and on the weekends. I can't help but suspect that he's cheating again, just like before. But then, my father-in-law stumbled in the garden and hit his back hard, ending up bedridden. Taking care of my in-laws was challenging, but they really cared for me and always seemed sorry. So it didn't bother me that much. However, it did bother me that Sam wouldn't help at all. I'm sure my in-laws would be happier being looked after by their own son than me, who isn't related by blood. "Sam, can't you at least help take care of your parents?" "What do I care? There's no way I can do that." "They're your parents. Can't you at least speak kindly to them?" "I got a bum deal with a wife. And I got a bum deal with parents, too. I just can't catch a break." I can't help but feel that the real losers are the in-laws for having such a son. My suspicion that Sam is having an affair doesn't go away. But I can't leave the house, especially with my in-laws bedridden. If I leave, Sam would surely neglect his parents. I don't want to remain married to such a man, but I can't bring myself to ask for a divorce. Wondering what would happen to my in-laws. Then, Sam announced that he was going to Hawaii with friends for Christmas. "You're going to spend Christmas holidays in Hawaii?" "Yes. I'm not going to spend my precious holiday in this depressing house. I'm going to refresh my body and soul in the sun-soaked Hawaii." "Don't you want to spend at least Christmas taking care of your parents and have a quiet family time at home?" "Not at all. Who would want to spend their precious vacation in this house?" "Who are these friends?" "Who I travel with is none of your business." "Is it a woman?" "Shut up! What do you care if it is?" Sam brazenly denied it, just like the last time. He must have been cheating again. I wasn't shocked to find out about it this time, but I was disappointed to see Sam's attitude. He showed no remorse. I bit my lip at the realization that he doesn't consider me his wife.
I work every day. I can't keep going without some sort of fun.
But Sam, you're married. Shouldn't there be some basic manners being spouses?
There's no such thing. You're nothing more than a housekeeper to me. Kept around to take care of my parents.
That's terrible.
If you have a problem with it, let's get a divorce. Don't get on my case, especially since you have no other home to return to. You should just keep quiet and take care of the house.
I don't want to stay married to him after being treated like this. I'm dying to say, I'm fine with the divorce, and leave. I could handle it on my own. But now that my mother-in-law and also my father-in-law are bedridden, I can't bear to leave them behind. And if I take them with me, I don't know how we'll survive. Even if I decide to put him in care facility, I'm not sure if both of them could be admitted right away. There's also the issue of cost. Can my in-laws' pensions alone cover all of that cost? Even if I were to work, I'm not sure if I could earn enough to cover it all. I have my own life too. Thinking about it all makes me feel uneasy. But after going through all this, there's no way I can continue living with my husband. You're worried about Sam, aren't you?
Yes. It seems we made a mistake in the way we raised our son.
I'm sorry for causing you so much pain. You don't have to worry about us. You should do as you please.
That's right, Chloe. You should be free.
But I can't just leave. I can't leave everything to Sam. Chloe. The words of my in-laws, who care about me more than their own health, resonate in my heart. And the thought of not leaving them only grows stronger. And while I stay silent, my husband talks about his affair right in front of me, as if I've given him permission to do so.
I'm going on a date with her again. I'll be late.
Huh?
Having a meal with her is definitely better than looking at your face.
You do realize that I'm your wife, right?
But you know I'm having an affair and you still won't leave me. So that means you've accepted it, right? It's an affair with the wife's approval.
Nobody has approved anything.
Staying here means you have. You're a pathetic woman, clinging to me because you can't survive otherwise.
It's truly pathetic that I can't say anything back to my husband, who gleefully says such things. Tears of frustration spill from my eyes, but when my husband sees my tears, he only laughs with more pleasure. Seeing my husband like this fills me up with despair. What am I doing? My in-laws keep apologizing to me for their son, but it's all so painful to see them like that. Maybe it would be better if I weren't here. Maybe because I'm here, my husband leaves everything to me regarding his parents. But even if I think so, if my husband doesn't do anything, I would regret leaving for the rest of my life. There's no guarantee at all that my husband will change. Then, on the day before Christmas Eve, my husband brought up divorce.
I've decided to divorce you. I prefer younger women.
Huh?
But I can let you stay here as a housekeeper, which means things will continue as they are. You'll be living here for free, so consider that as your salary.
With that, my husband laid out a signed divorce form in front of me. I see. Of course, I have no intention of becoming a housekeeper as he suggests. But I also don't want to remain his wife any longer. There are limits to how much one can look down on another person. I'm sure my husband knows that I can't abandon his parents. That's why he can say such things from a high horse. Knowing that makes me even more angry and frustrated.
Well, take good care of them, will ya?
The next morning, my husband left on a cheerful note for a trip to Hawaii. Even if I separated from my husband, I would like to stay with my in-laws. But such a convenient option isn't easy to come by. I had no choice but to let Christmas come and go. But the day without my husband was very peaceful. With no complaints thrown at me, the three of us laughed while watching TV, ate Christmas dinner, and although I knew I had to think about the future, I wished that this peaceful time could go on forever. And then, from the TV screen, I could hear the Christmas song started. Merry Christmas, I mused, when my father-in-law abruptly sat up from the bed.
All right, let's get started, dear.
Sure thing, she replied as my mother-in-law swiftly stood up. What are you...
Merry Christmas, Chloe.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. But is your back okay? How about you? Are you feeling well? When I asked, they exchanged glances and grinned broadly. Then, I received astonishing news from my father. On December 30th, my husband Sam returned from a trip. He called me in a frantic voice.
Hey, what's going on?
What happened?
Don't play dumb. Where are you? I can't get hold of my dad or mom.
Well, your parents have been quite busy with the Christmas hustle and bustle, so they're taking a rest.
Where did you take them? Did you kidnap them?
Absolutely not. Your parents acted on their own accord.
They were supposed to be immobile. You took them somewhere without asking.
They're perfectly capable of standing and moving around on their own.
What?
At the moment the Christmas song started, my in-law stood up. Seeing my dumbfounded face, my father-in-law said,
It's the start of a new life.
And laughed heartily. Apparently his back pain was temporary and had long since healed. My mother-in-law also had fully recovered over the last 6 months and was almost back to her old self. However, due to my husband's repeated verbal abuse, my father-in-law made a plan. My father-in-law told my mother-in-law about it, and she took the suggestion. Since Sam had joined a large company after graduating from college, his attitude had somehow become more arrogant. He was often out late, but they didn't worry too much since he was still single at the time. After marrying me, his parents had hoped that he would settle down. However, 2 years ago when his mother fell ill, he didn't care for her and even cheated on me. He seemed remorseful, but his father felt something was off. As expected, as his father's retirement approached, Sam started talking about the pension. Anticipating his greed, they could tell Sam was acting virtuous just to get his hands on the pension. But when Sam found out that there was no pension he could get, he showed his true colors. This confirmed the father-in-law's suspicions. In reality, my father-in-law received much more pensions, but he told Sam otherwise because he knew Sam was after it. If Sam had been kind to his mother and me, even without the money, they were willing to give him a share of the money.
It's a shame it didn't work out that way,
said the father-in-law with a hint of sadness, when he fell and hurt his back.
If you're bedridden now, you'll just be a burden.
Sam had said so, That comment convinced him to stop considering Sam as his son. The parents decided to pretend to be bedridden and make preparations. He apologized for the trouble this caused me during that time.
What's this for sale sign doing on our house? Why is there a sign like that hanging on our house?
Isn't the meaning obvious?
Cut the crap!
So that house was put up for sale. We've moved out.
What do you mean? I haven't heard anything.
Yup, because I have no intention of living with you. I didn't feel like telling you. My father-in-law had bought a new house with his savings. The old house was supposed to be bought out by a real estate agent, and we were supposed to vacate by Christmas Day. But since we were not going out anywhere anyway, we were told that it would be okay to wait until yesterday. So we waited until Sam went on a trip. My father-in-law's little joke of moving at the sound of Christmas songs was funny. But at that moment, it felt like a new day had dawned in my life too. All that was left to pack, my things, which was a piece of cake. The movers were already arranged and everything was moved out by the 28th.
Dad, did he get enough pensions?
He didn't tell you because you were after it.
What happened to the money from the sale of the house? I'm your son, so I have a right to receive it. It's my inheritance.
Your father is still alive, so it can be inheritance, right? You know, he's so determined to use up all his money before he passes away so that he wouldn't leave anything for you. He's even more energetic now.
He's still my father.
He doesn't want to be your father anymore. Oh, and don't worry, I've already filed for divorce.
But he bought a new house. When Dad passes away, it'll be mine.
Ah, that house. My father-in-law was kind enough to put it in my name. Of course, there's the gift tax, but I think I can handle it with property distribution I'm getting from you.
What?
This was the second time I had caught my husband cheating, and he had dumped all of his parents' caregiving on her while he was busy abusing her daily. I had been a housewife for 5 years, taking care of Sam as well. Considering all these factors, it was said that I could get a good amount of property division. My father-in-law had already consulted a lawyer about this. I've put your stuff in a storage unit, even though there wasn't much. I've given the key to a lawyer, so you'll be contacted by the lawyer later.
Where the hell am I supposed to go now?
I don't know. Figure it out yourself.
That won't work. I told my girlfriend that I would be living in a house with a maid. Without a house or you, I'm going to look bad.
I was astounded that he would say that to me at this point. I was reminded once again that he was a man who could only think about himself. I didn't even feel like talking anymore, so I just hung up the phone. Maybe it's true that you can do wrong without getting caught. My ex-husband's Hawaii fair trip was spotted by his boss, who was on a family vacation at the time, and it was found out at his company. His company had very strict ethics rules, and my ex-husband was demoted, and his salary was significantly cut. As soon as my lawyer sent a message to the woman he was seeing, she disappeared. After that, unfortunately, I received numerous reconciliation requests from my ex-husband. There's no chance that I agree to that. He is now living on the edge, struggling to pay his credit card bills, which he had been lavishing on his mistress. He pleaded with the lawyer to get back together with me, crying about his current situation, but the lawyer refused right there. My father-in-law had recorded my ex-husband's verbal abuse, and the lawyer who had heard it, was quite angry, saying it was unacceptable as a human being. So it was no surprise. My father-in-law had bought an old house with good air. I'm currently planning to turn it into an old-fashioned cafe. My father-in-law had said that he bought it with that intention. Every day, I exchange ideas with my father-in-law and his wife, trying to figure out what will work the best. I don't know if it will work out, but I'm going to give it my all. Seeing the happy faces of my in-laws every day makes me happier than anything else. I want to continue to live together, enjoying good coffee and getting along.